we've got a great vantage point, and we're starting to see the heads of state starting to arrive. Gabon has arrived. Egypt's Prime Minister has arrived, Madagascar's Prime Minister has arrived, and a number of others, but we're still waiting for some more to come and join them at the podium.
I must say, Peter, I'm quite intrigued by, so it's the white, shiny BMWs that are driving down a white carpet as opposed to a red one.
Yeah.
So there you go. That is the AU Commission
Moussa
chairperson that is arriving, Moussa Faki, and we'll tell you a little bit more about some of these arrivals and really why it's important for these people to be here, because it's not just an invitation for the sake of please come and see me be sworn in. There is a reason behind it, a method to the madness, to borrow that phrase, Peter.
Yes, indeed. So in trying to contain the costs, because it costs a lot of money to bring heads of state from all over the world, what they've decided to do this time around is to invite the SADC heads of state, and that's the closest region, of course, the one that we belong to as South Africa, and then various regional representatives. For example, from the East African Commission, we're expecting President Kagame, and from ECOWAS, we might see the ECOWAS Commission Chair and the Commission President Muhammad Buhari.
So the economic regional blocks from the regions, and they're also very important. But Peter, let's not forget that we also going to have the kings, the queens and principals of traditional houses. Mswati, King Mswati has already arrived in the country. So let's take you now to Mswandile, to where he's stationed, to find out what is happening there. Mswai?
Well, we continue our rolling coverage here, getting different views from different stakeholders, from people who are attending this inauguration. We've been speaking to the older members of parliament, and with me is the brand new member of parliament, Ronald Lamola, and he used to lead the ANC Youth League. We just want to find out really how he feels, what he hopes to achieve as this new ANC that will be inaugurated just now.
No, thank you very much. We feel very humbled with the responsibility bestowed on us by the ANC and the people of this country. It's a new dawn, a turning point for our country. We hope that we'll be able to quickly handle legislations in Parliament and fast-track the process, because it takes too long. And hopefully we'll also be able to handle most of the issues that have been raised during the elections campaign, unemployment, poverty and inequality, and a number of challenges that our country is facing.
A number of young people went to Parliament in this administration, which is quite impressive, and I think South Africans are pinning their hopes on a lot of you guys who will be there as young people. So what is it, perhaps across the political spectrum, what is it that you want to see happen, given that unemployment is the biggest among the youth?
Yeah, indeed. We don't take it for granted, because we know that we are living a battalion of unemployed youth in particular. When you look at the statistics of unemployment, the most affected is the youth. So it's important that the economy must be able to grow at more than 2%, so that we are able to create the number of jobs that we need, because as a country, the jobs that we create are not equal to the number of labor force of school leavers for both university and high school, and they are not able to match that. So for our economy to grow at more than 2% and create more jobs, it will need to match that, so that we are able to put a dent on unemployment, including crime and corruption, including the issues of drugs in most of our townships and the schools.
I know that it's not up to you and the issue of being appointed into the executive, but if the president decides to appoint you into his executive, so are you willing and ready to serve?
Yeah, no, I have already made a sacrifice of leaving my profession and go to Parliament. I think whatever happened for me, I'm fine in Parliament, but whatever the president decides, it's up to him. It's not really up to me. But the honor is already enough for me to be in the National Assembly. If I'm called upon for national duty, I will be humbled and I'm going to accept the responsibility.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lamola. There is Ronald Lamola there, the former leader of the ANC Youth League, So he's one of the core members of the Youth League, really, that have been sent to Parliament by various political parties. Remember, the youth unemployment is the highest in the country, and it's people like them who should come up with solutions to help address that.
Mandela, thanks very much indeed. And if you've just joined us on SABC2, a very warm welcome to you. We're bringing you special rolling coverage right here from Loftus Versfeld Stadium in Pretoria, the inauguration of President Cyril Ramaphosa. We've just seen one of the heads of state that's just arrived, the president, newly elected president of the DRC.
And he would appreciate this moment, Peter, because he has, as you said, just been inaugurated. So he's just rolled up his sleeves to tackle the country's challenges, which is something that President-elect Cyril Ramaphosa is going to have to be doing sometime soon. But now let's find out who else is arriving, but more importantly, the people on the ground. I believe there's somebody who traveled as far as Zanin from 10 p.m. last night to be here.
Nzinga?
A very good morning to Tepiso and Stephen. We've been here for a while, so the timing sometimes does get a bit confused. But we know that the presidency chose to have this inauguration on Africa Day specifically, saying that they want to show that South Africa is serious about advancing an African agenda and asking people to come out in their African regalia to celebrate not only Africa Day but the inauguration of President-elect Cyril Ramaphosa. For more on this, I'm joined right now by Dani. Please can you introduce yourself to our viewers? Talk to us about the article that you wrote that talks about how South Africa's Africa Day needs to be different.
Yeah, it's a sheer luck or a coincidence that the president is actually being inaugurated on the Africa Day. But what is critical for me is that what is the president is going to do that is unique from the perspective of the African agenda. You'd remember that dating back as far back as 1994, we had your Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela was known to unite and non-racialism. We went to the era of Thabo Mbeki. Thabo Mbeki fostered African Renaissance. It's Ramaphosa today, and we want Mandela to actually articulate, because remember the inaugural speech, it's a groundbreaking speech that you are going to live with for the greater part of your term. Now, if you are not going to be emphatic in advancing the African agenda as the president that exists within the continent, then it means there's something about you. Because what we have seen, there are achievements in the world stage by South Africa. You'd remember the seat that we got from the Security Council. You'd remember that we also had the United Nations endorsing the Mandela Day. Now, those are the things that we need when we look back 25 years back. You'd be able to say South Africa has been able to occupy the world stage, and in a way, it promoted the agenda of Africa within the world stage. Now, this poses a challenge to President Ramaphosa to say, in your term, what is it that you promised this nation to do? Particularly in showing or advancing the African agenda. We'll be looking at him. So the inaugural speech for me, it is the very critical document for the president that is coming in, so that because it charts a way forward. You are not going to be able to leave cultural issues, because the culture was underplayed. And the culture is very important in the development of any country, because that is the foundation of development.
Kondani Kedama, thanks so much for your time on SABC News. We're going to continue bringing you analysis of voices and views of people. For now, let's go back to my colleague Mzwandile Mbeche, also in Loftus Versfeld.
Well, with me is the EU ambassador to South Africa, Marcus Konaro, who is here to grace this occasion. In fact, he was telling me earlier that they've also invited South Africa to go and monitor some of the elections at the EU. Mr. Konaro, so you're here looking very jubilant. So what does it say to you as someone who comes from a background of established democracies to see a 25-year-old democratic country doing this?
Well, as we managed to say in our congratulatory message from our presidents, South Africa proved that it's a mature democracy. It's really inspiring to see how this has panned out. I'm glad to say that we work closely with the Independent Electoral Commission here in your process. Very credible, very professional, and indeed I'm glad to say that we could invite them to witness over this weekend, incidentally, what is the European Union parliamentary election. So we can continue a good partnership in addressing the challenges of running elections. This could be from dealing with media, dealing with social media, etc., registration, making sure that young people show up in great numbers, etc. So on that we have partnered very well on South Africa, but I can really testify to the process here and the way we're seeing this unfolding. Enormously gratifying to witness this as a European Union ambassador to South Africa.
Well, as the European Union, you also have your own challenges. Yesterday we had the UK Prime Minister resigning because of the issues relating to Brexit, and the EU is standing firm. They are not renegotiating the terms whatsoever.
I think we're standing firm in terms of a policy which remains that we, as the UK Prime Minister had tried to do, that this should be an orderly process. And orderly, I think, as seen from South Africa, should be a divorce arrangement, withdrawal arrangements, which should not penalize third countries like South Africa. But of course, we also want to be sure that none of the EU member states, including Ireland, would have difficulties. We actually, if we stay firm, we still have firmly stretched out our hand to the UK politics to see that they can come to the grips with what could be a majority solution, and we have given them a few extra months to do just that. And with that, yes, we have our issues, but as I say, I think it has also been a good maturing process for us back in Europe to see what is the value of Europe and what is also the cost of leaving Europe.
If you had to be given an opportunity to advise the president-elect, what is it that you're going to say to him?
Well, I benefit from having witnessed when he was in Brussels for the last EU-South African summit, engaging with the leadership. I think to make sure that to understand how much the European Union is on the side of the efforts of South Africa to continue to transform its economy, to have a job-led growth, to be strong on innovation. And I believe that we as Europe, we are one of South Africa's best and most reliable long-term international partners.
Thank you very much. That was Marcus Konaro, the EU ambassador to South Africa, basically saying he's very happy to see the processes unfold here in South Africa.
Thanks a lot, Mzwai. And as you come to us, the arrival of Botswana's President Masisi, and we've also just seen the arrival of the Deputy Chief Justice to loud applause.
Let me tell you, the big cheer that you've just heard now is for the President of Zimbabwe. Emmerson Mnangagwa has just arrived in the House. President ED, as he's affectionately known by Zimbabweans and people around the world. He's just arrived in the House.
With his signature scarf that he wears at all states visits.
And this is also a man who's known President Ramaphosa for many, many years, going back to his trade union days back in the day.
And both former trade unionists, the two presidents.
So there you go, getting a rousing round of applause there, being welcomed very warmly by South Africans.
Peter, still to come, there's still going to be other presidents. Macky Sall of Senegal, President Macky Sall of the Republic of Senegal. We'll see President Salva Kiir of South Sudan. As you know, South Africa very instrumental in finding a peaceful solution to the challenges in Sudan. And of course we have
coming out of the car now
Angola.
Is the President of Angola, João Lourenço. Also another president in this region who was elected not so long ago, taking over, of course, from longtime President Dos Santos there. So João Lourenço, the President of Angola, the latest head of state, making his way, being welcomed by the crowd that's here, slowly building up to that 32,000 number that we're expecting to see celebrate and witness the inauguration of President Ramaphosa a little bit later on.
And we saw the arrival of Ethiopia's president, which is, of course, a very special moment, especially for South Africans in South Africa who've been talking about the need for greater representativity of women. We know that Ethiopia is the only country that actually has that 50-50 representativity in their own parliament. And Peter will also see the likes of President Faure Gnassingbe of Togo, somebody who's been in power for a very, very long time. So,
well, I mean, that ascendancy to power from his father was pretty much meant that the country has seen father and son, much like the DRC did. And in fact, we're now joined by one of our